Hello everyone, so this is a card process video. This one's a little bit more tedious than the last one because I didn't have anything planned out for this one. It was just doing it as I go. All I knew that I wanted to do was that I wanted to make a pond scene, and I also knew that I wanted to use my new Lawn Fawn set, the Hello Baby stamp set. So that's really all I had planned for this. So it is going to be a little bit well, unplanned. So here I'm coloring in a pond and I'm just drawing it by hand. And I'm using my watercolor palette from Michaels. I believe it's from Recollections. And I'm trying to put a darker color by the pond so it'll look like it dips into the pond, so it should be darker there. And I also wanted to put a darker color by the horizon, just because I thought it would look darker there. I'm not sure. That's just what I thought would look better. So I'm using that, and I'm using the Tim Holtz water brush, if I didn't mention it. And I'm going over it, trying to blend it as good as possible. And again, I was trying to make it darker by the pond, like I said. Now I'm going to add some lines on the pond just so it looks more realistic. What I do is I just draw it in and then I smudge it with my finger, just so it'll look more realistic and it won't just look like lines that were drawn on the pond. So there, I finished that, and now I'm going to draw color in the sky. And I'm going to use some oranges and yellows and pinks and colors like that because I want it to look kind of like a sunrise. So I want it to look like that. Here I'm adding a very light yellow so you can barely see it, but I'll start to add some darker yellows and you'll see it now. Again, I'm smudging it with my finger so the sky will look more streaky, but again, it won't just look like lines that were drawn on the paper. So again, I just smudge it and I'm adding like magentas and light pinks and mustardy colors just so it'll look more realistic. I was trying to have it look as realistic as possible. And then at the top I added a pretty burnt orange at the top, and again, these are all the watercolors from that Michaels palette. And I was running out of water in my water brush, and that's why you see I don't finish the bottom. I will finish that off camera when I fill in the brush. So here I've already finished the sky. I did it off camera, and I'm using my Crayola markers, and I'm just using it on the cattail. This is from the Hello Baby stamp set. And I'm using two different tones, two different browns, so it'll have more dimension to it. And here I turn it a little bit because I didn't want it to be straight up. And I huffed on it because it was a little dry, so I wanted it to be wet so I would stamp it out and it would stamp out. So I just do that I do that about 3 or 4 times. And I end up cutting the card so it's smaller than you see here, just because it seemed like too much. It was just too big and there was a lot of wasted space. So I do end up cutting it or trimming it, and you'll see that at the end. Here I used my water brush just to blend it out a little bit because the darker brown and lighter brown weren't blending as nicely as I wanted them to. So here I just color it in. And I got the darker brown also, and I huffed on it as well. And then here I'm doing a 4th one. So I tried to speed this up. I think I did about 2 or 3 times just so you won't be bored there watching it. So I did one off camera, as you can see there, which was unnecessary because, like I said, I do end up trimming the card. But here I'm stamping out some grass, and I'm doing some 2nd generation stamping, and I could have just done this with regular ink. I didn't need to use the marker because I just used one color, but I had the markers nearby and it was just easier just to grab it and color it in and then stamp it twice. So I did that, and Now I am grabbing, I think, the lily pad. Yeah, so I grabbed the lily pad from that same stamp set, and I'm going to use two different greens. So I'll use a darker green at the bottom and then a lighter green at the top, just to give it more dimension, or at least try to give it more dimension. And what I like about this, it has a watercolor feel. Like when you stamp it out on the paper, it looks like it was watercolored. So I really like that about this. And again, I had huffed on it and then stamped it down, and I want to blend it a little bit more, so I got my water brush and I colored it in. I do mess it up in a second because I put my acrylic block right on top of it and it wasn't completely dry, so it bleeds out a little bit, and you'll see that in a second. But here I am stamping out another lily pad off to the side, and then I'm going to stamp a third one on the bottom so it looks like the pond continues even past the card. So there, I did it on the bottom, and you can see how it bled a little bit, that middle lily pad, and it's because I put the acrylic block right on top of it and it was still wet. So that's the problem that you have with watercolors. You have to be careful that everything is dry while you're working with it. So here I'm placing some stamps on the card to see how I want them placed and what critters I want to use. So like I said, I didn't have anything planned out. I just went with the flow. And I decided to use those 3 critters that you saw there. Actually, here I'm going to stamp out some more grass, just so it'll be a little bit more interesting. So I thought the pond was looking pretty plain. So I had a little bit more grass, and again I was just using the marker because it was nearby, and I tried to stamp it twice most of the time, or more. So there, I'm just, and I'm just coloring in the top of the grass. So, because I didn't want the whole grass to stamp out. So there's that, and now I'm just going to color in these critters, and I sped this up pretty quickly because I don't do really any blending or anything. I wasn't even worrying about going outside the lines. As you can see, I went all over the place with that. I'm using the same watercolor palette. I didn't care if it went outside the line because I was going to cut these out, so I didn't mind if the color went everywhere. So I'm just coloring it. I'm not worrying about too much about shadows or blending or anything like that. I just wanted to get them colored. I did try to get a little bit of a shadow at the bottom, but again, I wasn't too worried about that. And now I'm just coloring in the bunny. And the bunny and the duck are from the Hello Baby stamp set from Lawn Fawn, and then the frog is from the Critters Ever After stamp set. So here I already fussily cut them out, and again they were colored and dry, so I ran them through my little Xyron machine, and I love using that for these little die cuts. It's perfect and it makes them really stick down to your card. So here I'm putting my little frog on the lily pad, and I just press him down, make sure he's stuck on the card. I don't want him falling off. And here I'm just taking out some of the gunk from the adhesive and pressing down the little duck there by the cattails. And you see by the duck, you'll notice later on that I do end up cutting that portion off of the card, so the card doesn't being smaller, like I said. So there I put the little bunny, and now I had pulled out these little Sticko Puffy stickers, and I put 2 little tiny ducks that were on the sticker sheet. I thought it was perfect for this card, and I thought it was a good size since they are further away. Here I took out my Lawn Fawn Life is Good stamp set, and I wanted to use the word relax, and this is the Paper Smooches Get Out of Town, and I wanted to use the Go to a Happy Place, oh no, Go to Your Happy Place stamp set. So I positioned them where I wanted them, and I took out my stamp press so I can stamp both of those sentiments at the same time. And now I'm pulling out some of the Crayola markers again, and I'm pulling out oranges and pinks, and I did that because I wanted to match with the sky. Like I said, I want it to look like a sunrise, so I wanted to use some different colors on the sentiment just so it'll be a little bit more interesting. So I colored in both of the sentiments with that, and I wasn't sure how it was going to come out because I couldn't see it too well. since this is a clear stamp set, it was kind of hard for me to see how the colors were gonna turn out when I stamped it out. So I was just hoping that when I pressed it onto the card it wouldn't be a huge mess, because that would not have been good. So there, I'm just coloring in some oranges and pinks and just, again, hoping for the best. So I'm glad I used my stamp press because I was able to position it where I wanted it, and then a portion of it didn't stamp out. So after I lifted up, I looked, and see here, I looked and I noticed that it didn't stamp out properly, so I pushed it back down and pressed it harder there in the middle. And then I noticed that the 2 in Go to Your Happy Place is way too light, you can't really see it. So I just grabbed a pink Crayola marker, and here you can see me filling it in. And then I added a comma, and I filled out some of the letters in Relax and added those 3 little dots there. And I stamped out those 2 birds there on the right hand corner off camera. That's from the Life is Good stamp set. And then I added those tiny little dots onto the horizon, and that's from the Hello Baby stamp set. So here I just drew on a little bit of grass, and I got my water brush and just went over it so they won't look so stark against the page. And here's a little heart, again from the Hello Baby stamp set, and I'm just stamping 2 of those there at the top by the sentiments. And there you can see that. Now I'm going to finish off the inside. I already added ATG tape to this just to save on some time. So that's why you can see I just pressed it down and finished that. So, and these papers are from the Bo Bunny Enchanted Garden paper pad. And I just cut off the excess, and I wanted to add the bigger bunny that I didn't use on the outside. I wanted to use it there on the inside. So I put on my stamp press and just stamped it out there on the corner. I left the inside blank so I can use it for any occasion and for anybody. And then here you can see my card. I added a little bit of glitter to the top. Some of an old stickle pack, or no, an old stickle bottle that was empty. I just pushed it and got glitter there. I used some little flower gems like you can see there, and I thought that was the perfect touch to finish it off. And I also used my Martha Stewart chalk inks, and I used the orange and green and went around the card so it'll look more finished on the sides. So that is my card, and thanks for watching.